Today's episode of Mark 42's WHOniverse is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/Mark42. There are over 150,000 titles to choose from your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. You lucky guys. That's www.audibletrial.com/Marku42. And now, here's the show.
This is Andrew-cartmel, and it is my master plan to listen to Mark 42's WHOniverse.
Mark 42 WHOniverse.
Welcome to Mark 42's WHOniverse, Doctor Who WHOniverse, that is. I'm your jolly host, Mark-Baumgarten, and with me today are...
Elf number 1, Patricia-helm.
And I'm the Krampus, who here has been naughty.
Uh-oh.
Now I see, he's the naughty one. All right, come here, Mr. Basil. Someone's getting a lump of coal bopped up the side of their head.
I'm just kidding. It's Eduardo-m-Freyre.
I would hope so. Who's that other guy?
It's Christian-basel, the elf in the corner.
At least it's not the elf on the shelf. Ooh.
Even worse than the Krampus.
Yes.
We could do Christmas bad jokes all day long, but I think it's time to go right to...
It's time to go right to Doctor Who News with our Doctor Who correspondent, Patricia-helm. Oh, wait, excuse me. I seem to have a chicken bone stuck in my throat. Oh, there we go. I got it.
Ew, I don't even have a poncho on.
Where's Gallagher when we need him?
All right, so last Christmas...
Oh, so we're talking about last year?
No, the episode last Christmas.
Oh, the
Christmas
episode last
yes.
Christmas. I thought you were telling us happened last Christmas.
Not last Christmas,
Sorry.
and not that horrible song last Christmas.
Oh, that we played at the end of last week's show?
Yeah, I know. I wanted to smack you for that one.
Shame on you.
I wanted to smack you for that so badly.
I love that song. No.
I
You and
don't
three
know
others.
why.
Yeah, that's about it.
My radio station who just plays Holiday Mix. I swear to you, I think somebody at my radio station is a Doctor Who fan because every 15 minutes they're playing that song.
Oh. Trish, tell us about last Christmas.
Okay, it's set to air on BBC One at 6:15 p.m. UK time. So that's like 10:15 Pacific and
1:15 here.
1:15 p.m. So be careful of going on the internet after them. You don't want it to get ruined. Like I've had other episodes ruined for me. So don't be stupid and go on
is
Facebook.
the master.
Oh, shush.
And Rose is Bad Wolf.
Yes. Now it's gonna.
The sleigh.
It's gonna.
Rosebud's the sleigh.
Oh, it's gonna air on BBC America at 9 p.m.
Okay.
So whatever your time zone, that's what it'll.
I'll watch it at 1:15.
I know you will. Anyway, now also Last Christmas is going to be released in the UK on Blu-ray and DVD on January 26th.
Oh.
But no release date for the US as of yet.
We didn't get the 50th anniversary special edition Blu-ray in America either.
I'd order mine from BBC Shop.
Well, right, but you order yours from BBC Shop. It's the British formatted Blu-ray, isn't it?
No, it's universal format.
Oh, I didn't buy it. Oh, I'm upset.
Yeah. No, I emailed them and contacted them, prior to buying it, seeing if they had any universal DVDs, and they're like, "Oh, well, the Blu-ray's universal." I'm like, "Cool,
so
I will get that."
At BBC Shop?
Yes.
All right, I think they're out of them, but because they only made a limited amount. But I'm going to look.
And Mark, I can confirm that it is indeed universal because one of the things we did while prepping for Wizard World is the four of us panelists. We did watch one of the special features from the 50th anniversary. So
the 5-ish Doctor reboot.
Trish, what did we watch?
We watched the
script
read-through.
reading.
Yeah,
the
read-through.
read-through. That would have been. That makes sense. Yeah.
that was cool. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, going back to the Christmas special, Stephen Moffat did an interview with Radio Times, and he was describing the Christmas special, and he says it's like The Thing meets Miracle on 34th Street. I thought that was pretty interesting. Two movies you'd never think would be together. And he says that it's the strangest thing that he's ever written.
Wow.
So,
I can name a few.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, I'm like thinking, wow, I really want to see this now.
Like Friday the 13th meets A Christmas Story. Oh my goodness, it's going to be lovely out there. Strangest thing you've ever written, really. Give us all of Series 8.
Oh. Now, Nick Frost, he was talking about Santa, and he was saying that he has a history with the Doctor and that they have a beef with each other from way back. Oh. That'll be interesting to see as well.
Which puts my theory into play, doesn't it?
Yeah, that it could be, yeah.
Two crotchety old men going at it. Cool.
Grumpy old men.
Anybody else hoping for a fist fight? I would love a fist fight.
I can
Santa
confirm with you right now, it is no longer available. It's gone.
Oh, it's gone.
It's gone.
Well, I'm lucky.
Oh.
I'm lucky I got one.
You got one. I didn't buy it because I thought it was no good. Oh.
This is why you got to do like Trish. If anything, just ask.
Just ask. Yeah, region info. They give you region infos on this shop. I didn't know.
Well, if you're worried, what you do is you just find email you could send to and go, hey, do you guys offer a region-free version, or are you going to have a Region 1 version? And hey, worst case, they say, no, sorry, it's only UK. Best case, like Trish, you find out, hey, it's region-free.
Oh, now Peter Capaldi has also talked a bit about the Christmas special.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he says that he thinks it's one of the scariest Christmas specials ever. And he said that Santa crashing into Clara's roof is...
Spoilers.
Yeah, I guess this is kind of spoilers. Maybe he says that,
Spoilers?
Well, not really. It says that
We haven't seen it yet.
Well, he said that, usually meeting Santa should be something that's full of cheer and happiness, but it's actually kind of a nightmare development. He says, but only the Doctor knows why. And so he says the Doctor arrives there to save Clara from what Santa being there means for her.
Right.
I know, kind of vague.
I still think my theory is now kicking in even higher. Does anybody remember from the last episode what my theory was? Mark, do you know which one?
Yeah.
Do you think now it's coming to its fruition a little bit better?
I couldn't possibly comment.
I don't know. I mean, I'm still thinking about what we talked about in the news last episode, that if he's pushing that, no, it is really Santa, it's not a monster, it's not a trick. I don't know. I mean, it's either a Moffat lie, or in this particular case, he doesn't want to get flack, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Fool me once with Missy, fool me twice with Missy. No, I'm not going to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, everything is open season now.
He also says that there's something quite profound that happens to Clara in this story, but of course he can't really go into that.
She dies.
She realizes she's turned into Clara Sue. She's like, no, I don't want to.
I mean, they said, Danny Pink, the actor, said that he gets immortalized before we got to see him die in the episode. So special thing. Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense.
You just want Clara to die.
Yeah, pretty much.
He wants to put Adric and Clara in the same ship and ram them down on the planet below.
Yeah.
Taking out a few Cybermen with him.
Yeah, I'll take that. Okay.
Getting a little bit away from the Christmas special, Stephen Moffat has said that he is not running out of ideas for the show.
Oh, he hasn't run out of ideas yet?
He says that he's not having any trouble coming up with fresh ideas. I'm like, well, then why do you keep using the Cybermen and the Daleks then?
Burn.
Tooting your own horn. Just get it done.
He's trying to out JNT for the longest running producer of that show right now.
Oh, no, he's got a way to go before he hits that.
I think he's trying to.
He might.
Peter Capaldi, he is saying that fans can expect to see the Doctor evolve more in Series 9. That if we think that we've seen who the Doctor is, and that we all know exactly who he is now, we haven't. That there's parts of him that we haven't seen yet. Oh, Christian, don't do it. Please don't do it. I said, as soon as that came out of my mouth, I just knew that was the wrong thing to say.
I'm Time Lord Fabulous.
Oh
no.
Oh.
Can we gag him, please?
Yep. Okay, now on a more serious note, we actually had an actor from Doctor Who pass away not too long ago.
Yeah, serious.
Yes, as actor Ian Fairbairn. He made his first appearance in Doctor Who in 1967, playing Questa in The Macra Terror. And then he came back in 1968 playing Mark Gregory in The Invasion.
Yeah.
And then he was in Inferno as Bromley, and then he made his last appearance in The Seeds of Doom. So he made quite a few appearances over the years.
Yeah, he did in the classic series,
Yes.
definitely.
I saw on IMDb that Doctor Who was not the only time travel show he did.
Oh, no?
No, he was also in a short TV show, something that only lasted a season, called Time Slip.
Time Slip.
About two kids who traveled through a portal to different, and he was in the adventure The Day of the Clone.
He will be missed. Well, now on to a little happier note. We have one birthday coming up.
Oh, okay, and I wonder who that
It's on December 12th. It is Sarah Sutton's birthday.
Sarah Sutton. Oh, Nissa.
Yes.
That.
Well, that's all the news and birthdays we have this week. Unless you guys know of anything that I missed.
While we're recording this, Wendy Padbury is celebrating her birthday. That's nice. You know, I think we did mention her last week, but I'm mentioning her again because it's nice to mention.
And Mark has a crush on Zoe.
Yeah, why not? Why not? I'll be younger. Okay. No, her character was a teenager, but she was an adult. I just have to say that because Ed teases me on this all the time, so I have to bring it out as being fine. Okay.
15 will get you 20. And she's from the future.
She's from the future, so she's older. Oh no, does that make her older or younger? No, it makes me younger.
The fact that you're contemplating this is really.
Yeah.
You're
really putting some thought into this.
Yeah, maybe I better stop. Okay, we're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, our highest rated show was with Andrew Cartmel. And Christian and I bumped into Andrew Cartmel again at Hurricane Who this year. So we thought, hey, let's bring him back. So we've got Andrew Cartmel again, and he'll be talking about books and comic books and fun stuff. So we'll be right back on Krypton Radio. Attention all Whovians! While you're waiting for the new episode of Doctor Who, start your own adventures with a book from Mark Who 42 Books. They carry unique and rare books at affordable prices. Visit Amazon.com/shops/MarkWho42. That's Amazon.com/shops/MarkWho42. Mark Who 42 Books. Set your imagination free into the Whoniverse.
We Decepticons now face our darkest hour.
Yes, that's right, Megatron, because we are announcing that the GCRN is bringing everyone Transformers Prime Time. That's right, before we get to TFG1 redone, we enter the Prime Universe. Join your hosts, TFG1 Mike, Steve Megatron, Optimus Solo, and Peacock Michael, as they cover all 65 episodes of Transformers Prime, the comics, the toys, and more. We will also have a commentary on Predacons Rising, interviews with writers, voice actors, and so much more, all in the latest Transformers review podcast from the Geekcast Radio Network. You can find TF Primetime on iTunes and www.geekcastradio.com.
Transform and roll out!
Tired of listening to the same old music over and over? Are you ready to turn off the radio, give up on your iDevice, or admit your music collection just isn't enough to keep you satisfied? Vigay Dynamics has the answer to your listening needs. Dr. Geek's Laboratory, the science of music from fiction, is a fantastic album now available for download, assimilation, and rejuvenization of your tired old playlists. The album is comprised of music and audio excerpts from the first 2 seasons of the acclaimed show, which chronicles the adventures of Dr. Geek and friends in his fantastic lab. Here at Vigay Dynamics, we feel it is our duty to create eager customers who will devour the inventions, creations, and various other offerings of the good doctor and his lab staff. The album is currently available to download from iTunes, Amazon, CDBaby.com, and all your other retail favorites. Physical CDs of Dr. Geek's Laboratory, the science and music from fiction, will be available in December just in time for your holiday shopping needs. Vigay Dynamics, bringing you the music of tomorrow, today.
Pixels in the Animation is the next cartoon review podcast series in the Geekcast Radio Network's long history of review series. We've had Transformers, He-Man, and Mask as far as the cartoon review podcasts we have done. Now we bring in TV's Mr. Neil as he and TFG and Mike break down 9 video game cartoon series. Steve Megatron will join us for the Mega Man and Sonic episodes. We'll be reviewing and analyzing every episode of the Mario, Zelda, Captain N, Mega Man, Donkey Kong, and Sonic cartoons. You can expect us to go in-depth and also talk about the game franchises that spawned these cartoons. So tune in summer 2013 as we find the pixels in the animation.
Hello, my name's Fraser Hines, also known as Jamie McCrimmon. You're listening to Mark Who 42.
Welcome back to Mark Who 42's WHOniverse, Doctor Who WHOniverse, that is. I'm your host, Mark-Baumgarten, and with me, of course, is Christian-basel. And we... oh, yes. Let's give him applause. Yeah. And that gentleman that you just spoke, just said yay, that's our special guest, Andrew-Cartmel. Hi, Andrew.
Yay.
Hey, great to be talking to you guys. From the other side of the globe, virtually.
Yeah. You are a true friend of the radio show. You're a true friend of our cast. We just got to spend time with you at Hurricane Who Halloween
I was just going to say it was terrific coming to Orlando and putting, faces to voices. Because we spoke, what was it, about 6 months ago, 9 months ago?
It was a while ago, yeah.
Yeah.
We finally got to meet.
I thought that went really well.
And actually, I had met you before that at the Bon Voyage party.
As I was propelled into the Caribbean.
Yeah. Did you have a fun time on that? We didn't talk about
that. Was incredible. I was about to say, what a nice place to be propelled into.
Yeah. And what kind of activities did you guys do on the cruise?
Well, our main obligation as guests was really to move tables at dinner time and sit and talk to people. There were other things. Some folks wrote little Doctor Who scripts, which I, quote, script edited, unquote, but that really didn't involve much. And then they did little sort of performance of the skits on the last night and stuff like that. But mostly it was just hanging out. And if people wanted to talk to me about the show, that was fine. I mean, it's a little bit like when I go to conventions, I sit down at a table, I sign books and I sign photos, but folk come along and chat, and if there's a spare chair, I just say sit down and have a talk to me. I'm always very, very happy. And when I'm doing the panels, I always like them to be open as a sort of Q&A thing. Obviously, there are times when you don't want to be trapped in an elevator with somebody who wants to ask you detailed questions about the Seventh Doctor. But by and large, it's just very pleasant.
We just celebrated the 51st anniversary of Doctor Who just recently. And that brings back memories of Silver-nemesis. And that was one of your script editing jobs, Silver-nemesis.
Yeah, Silver-nemesis was one of those slightly frustrating situations where the script was absolute dynamite and it was slightly mangled. It was like putting it through a wood chopper, getting onto the screen. Just because there's always problems with when I was on Who with the budget and with the schedule. There's not enough time or money. Also, Chris Claffey, who's a terrific TV producer these days, was not the best director in the world. He just seemed not to get the point of certain scenes. Classically, in Silver-nemesis, there's a bit where Lady Painford is in this little house and she picks up a chair and smashes it through the window. And, I defy anybody to tell me why she does that, but in the script it's very clear because she tries to open the door and she can't because it's a modern door and she has no idea how it operates. It was a lovely little touch. I thought very true, a kind of culture clash because this was not her world. She literally couldn't open the door, so she just smashed the window. But the way it's shot, it's just like this chick grabs a chair and decides to throw it. And there was a lot of that kind of stuff that went on. It was disappointing because what I'm trying to say is people love Silver-nemesis, people hate Silver-nemesis, but you haven't really seen the brilliant script that Kevin Clarke wrote fully realized on the screen.
I'd actually love to see it. The BBC should publish old scripts. I think
you know what they did? They did publish a few classic scripts. I believe Ghostlight was published.
Yeah,
and
I think it was.
I think Talons of Weng Chiang maybe, but certainly Ghostlight because I thought, well, that's one from my era. I'm so proud, and also. What a great script. I feel like a proud kind of godfather looking at that script, puffing on a big cigar.
I think I'm enjoying more that we just referred to Fiona Walker as this chick.
Actually, I was referred to Lady Painford.
Oh, she's done a hearing.
Yeah.
The Lady Painford.
Some chick, in fact, is even worse than this chick, yeah, I think. Not even specified, yeah. Yeah, so Silver-nemesis was an anniversary story. It had greatness in the script, which was not realized on screen, but then there's these wonderful little things like I suddenly saw these fezzes turning up at conventions. It turned out like this was this kind of Steve Moffat reference to that scene in the basement of the castle where there's fezzes and there's a mop. I think the Mona Lisa's in there. God, the Marie Celeste is probably in there. It's like the Bermuda Triangle. You see, I thought that was a reference to something in the new canon, but it was in fact a little back reference by Steve Moffat to us, and specifically to Silver-nemesis, which I find very gratifying.
So, Christian.
Yeah.
Well, now that you have Andrew here, did you want to talk to him about your cabbie fees that he owes you?
Absolutely not.
No, okay.
That was the best.
I also have a fantastic bottle of wine you bought me, too, a California Viognier. So
it was my privilege.
$2.99 bottle of wine?
Not just gas I owe him, but wine. It's very
No. Let me bring our audience up to speed on this. When we were at Hurricane Who, Ashley came up to me. She's one of the assistants over there. She came up to me and asked me, she goes, "Can you take Andrew Cartmel around town?" I'm like, "What?" It was just off the cuff. Yeah, Andrew wanted you to take him around town. Can you show him? Are you
shopping?
And I was like,
go to Walmart. Basically,
Andrew wants to go to Walmart. So I was like, sure, I have no problem with this whatsoever.
It was incredibly kind of you. In my defense, I would say that you got off lightly. Usually when I get somebody to drive me somewhere, it's usually to a record store, and the poor person who drives me has to sit for 3 hours while I look through every jazz record in place. But,
and I would have done it.
You're very kind, but on this trip, actually, very uncharacteristic for me. I was very unselfish, and when we went shopping, it was to buy presents for the nice lady next door who babysits my cat while I'm away, and for my brother, who's a hopeless, broken-down alcoholic who wanted a very difficult to find. He's not really, but he wanted this really. You remember, Christian? He wanted this really rare bottle of gin that was made in San Francisco, and we found it for him. So bless your heart, Christian-basel. Thank you.
Only after 4 shops later. That was.
I know. I've really guilt-tripped him about it, so don't you worry. But it was great. So you drove me all over hell buying presents for people, whereas it would be me buying records for myself. So it was a fairly unselfish expedition. Also, we bought some really good barbecue. Do you remember? Really good chicken. Very nice.
Publix.
I didn't get food. I was hungry that day. I'm selling books at the table, and you go out there and have lunch? What is this?
Hey, it's me.
Oh, it was worse than that. I brought it back to the hotel, so I could have given you some, but I didn't. It was totally out of order. But I thought that was a great little convention. I've not been to Hurricane Who before. I just loved it. It was terrific.
Hurricane Who is a good convention. I've done 3 of them, plus their Day with the Doctor with Paul McGann. They do a great job there.
We did a couple interviews a couple of weeks back. We had Peter Davidson, Ingrid Oliver, Terry Malloy, and Kai Owen, and J.K. Woodward. But I got to say, the optimum moment there, the pinnacle moment, was when I got to drive Andrew around town. We really had a good time just talking with each other, and it was just interesting. He goes, I don't understand. If you need to do anything, I said, no, Andrew, wherever you want to go, let's go there. I would have driven him to Georgia.
So there's some very good record shops in Georgia, so you got to Yeah, and we got to talk about Doctor Who, and as I say, we played, I was going to say the tape, but in fact it would have been a disc of the previous Mark Who 42 podcast recording, which I was tremendously impressed with. I was just very professional, and the sound quality was very good. Basically what I'm saying is I like to hear myself talk, so I
like to hear you talk too. You've got a good voice, a soothing voice.
So
plus, I was making a certain amount of sense about, we were talking about survival and things like that, I think you actually extracted some decent anecdotes from me. Well done, gentlemen. Well done.
Thank you.
And the invitation, if you ever come back to Orlando, is open again. I will actually put on a little app and stuff. This is
where I put in a big plug. I'm so totally angling to get invited back to Hurricane Who again. Jared, if you're listening, you're a gentleman and a scholar, and I'd love to come. I really. Great time.
Bring him back.
Yeah.
Andrew, we hear that you're writing a book with Ben Aronovich.
Well, yes and no. What we're doing is Ben has written a series of best-selling novels. They're not bestsellers in America, oddly. I think what's going to happen is one day they're just going to break through and be huge. They're bestsellers all over the world otherwise, though, and they're called the Rivers of London series. It's about the Department of the Metropolitan Police in London, which deals with the supernatural, featuring Peter Grant, who's the apprentice, and Nightingale, who is the wizard. There's a wizard and there's an apprentice, but there the resemblance to Harry Potter stops. They're wonderful.
And there's no sorcerer in Apprentice. There's no Mickey Mouse. Speaking of Orlando.
Really?
Well, we were speaking of Orlando. I had to bring the Sorcerer's Apprentice in.
Oh, boy.
Rooms and mops. But fantastic books. And what has happened is they're looking to do a TV series, and the negotiations for that are afoot as we speak. But what has actually already started is a series of comic book adaptations.
Comic book.
And what is happening is that Ben Aronovich and I we're not adapting the novels. We're doing further adventures in the canon. So they're not they're new additional adventures featuring the character rather than being reproductions of the existing text. And we've handed in the first 5 scripts, so that's 5 monthly comics, which will then get turned into a graphic novel, which is where the book comes into it. So initially they're comics issued as monthly magazines, and then after we do every 5 that we do, it'll be turned into a graphic novel available in your stores. And the first issue of the first comic will be out in April 2015. So place your order at your local comic store.
What's the publishing company?
Titan.
Titan. Oh, the ones that are doing Doctor Who.
They recently got the franchise. Yeah. Doctor Who, absolutely. So, we're rolling ahead with that. As I say, we've already written the first graphic novel, effectively. We've written the first 5 scripts. And we've just seen the artwork by Matthew Dow Smith, who used to draw Doctor Who for I think, IDW. Is that correct?
I think so.
So what's happened is that Ben and I have written the scripts, and we've just seen the first 22 pages of art by Matthew Dow Smith, which is wonderful. There's a fantastic excitement. It's rather like what you do when you write a TV script and then you see it come to life. You see the actors do it. You see it get shot on screen. It's like a kind of version of that because you see the artists bring it to life. So it's tremendously cool, and that is the project which is due out in April. There's a couple other things that I want to hype to you guys on Skype, but that's the one which I'm doing in collaboration. Ben and I are writing the scripts together. What happens is we get together in London and have a really nice hamburger and talk about things. Then we go away and we each write segments of the scripts and we email them to each other, and then we work like that. And we've got a couple other great stories up our sleeves, so I'm hoping that Titan continue with the series, and we'll be doing another 5 issues shortly.
So too. What's the name of the series called again?
Called The Rivers of London.
The Rivers of London.
Now, I really love that title because Ben couldn't work out what to call the books, and I came up with that title. So I'm really proud of it. Yeah, the working title was Magic Cops, which perhaps could have been.
I don't think so.
Magic Cops.
Space Precinct, Space Police, Space Cops, Star Cops. Oh, it could be any of those.
Sounds like 80s retro type of titles right there.
Magic Cops, that was the working title, and we didn't have a title for the books, and I suggested Rivers of London. Ben said, it's not good, but it's the best we have, and it's really grown. It's grown on everybody, and that's what everybody refers to the series as.
And how many books does he have out?
Coincidentally, 5 books. The 5th one is called Foxglove Summer, and it's literally just been published. It was published, I think, a week ago in England, and any of your listeners who are already fans will probably have already got it on their Kindle.
You just spoke the magic word, Kindle. I'm going to have to download the...
Yeah, so the first one's called Rivers of London. The second one's called Moon Over Soho. I'm chuckling. I'll tell you why I'm chuckling in a moment. The third one is called Whispers Underground. The fourth one's called Broken Homes. And the new one, just out now, is called Foxglove Summer. And the reason I'm chuckling is Ben's first novel was published, it was called Rivers of London, all over the world except in America. America has a long history of changing the titles of books. They used to do it to Agatha Christie's books. They did it to Ben's, and they wanted to call the book Midnight Riot, which is really stupid because there is a riot, but it takes place at 7 o'clock in the evening. But anyway, and then they had the books had really. I was saying that Ben's books weren't a big success in the States. Well, that's largely because the initial publisher Del Rey didn't really know how to market them, so the covers were completely inappropriate for the books. They changed the title, they monkeyed with them, but now they're coming out in lovely editions which kind of do justice to them and accurately represent the books. But that's enough plug for Ben, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's have a plug for Mr. Cartmel himself. Andrew, is anything coming out that we could buy for Christmas?
Yes, people could be encouraged mercilessly to buy Script Doctor. Which is which you'll be fed up with saying because I was flogging you guys.
Oh, yes, you were.
In Orlando. I do have a series of crime novels coming out, and they're fantastic, but they're not due out until early 2016. So we'll have to come back on the show to hype them then.
Script Doctor.
Yeah, if anybody is interested in the 7th Doctor era, that is a very good book. And the best way unfortunately, the American distributor isn't distributing it. So the best way to do it is to order it directly from the publisher, which is MIWK. Don't ask me why it's called MIWK, but they're in the UK. So if you just Google MIWK Script Doctor, you should find the website for that. Or, I always say this to people, wait till I'm over at a convention and I can autograph a copy for you.
There you go.
And have a chat with you while I'm selling it. I'm doing conventions so far next year. There's one in Wichita, Kansas. Wow. And one in Nashville. Nashville and Wichita, guys. So keep
you happen to know the dates?
Yeah, March and October. And I think March is Nashville and October is Wichita. I think I've got that the right way around. But again, if you just check them online, you'll find out. And as I say, I'm certainly angling to come back to Hurricane Who.
We'd love to have you back.
I'd love to come back. And also there's a great little convention in Huntsville, Alabama, which is called Casterbarus. And I'm hoping that they might have me back too. Who knows if they hear this. Bonnie, I love you. I love you, Bonnie. Bonnie, kiss, 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 kiss. You're so wonderful. So, yeah, that's it. Guys, so all I've got out at the moment is Script Doctor, which I hope to have out as an ebook, but it won't be in time for Christmas.
Right.
But you'd rather buy the proper book because it's got 32 lavish pages of color photographs. Who would know that? Yeah.
Yeah, you sold me a book. I love it. I haven't actually. I say I love it. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I'm going to read it, Andrew.
Thank you.
It's number one on my list. It's on the shelf right next to me. I just haven't had a chance.
I know what it's like. I've got a huge stack of books waiting to be read. In fact, I bought a stack more today, but partly that's presents for Christmas. So yeah, buy more books, folks. Doesn't have to be my book. Just keep that literacy alive. Thank you.
I just want to let you folks know, after the premiere of this episode, if you're listening to this, you can actually go to Mark Who 42 and the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS on Facebook. We'll have the links up to Andrew's book, Script Doctor, so you can purchase it online for yourself and enjoy. I'm trying to start reading it too, but yeah, it's one of those books I said, God, this is the next one. I promise you, this is the next one.
Well, the same thing happened to me with the GNT biography. Someone lent it to me to read it, and it took me like 3 months to get to it.
And that's a very scandalous and shocking book.
It's shocking. It was. And you're in it.
Yeah. I've read all the bits with me in it, so I know that they're safe for young readers. But the guy who did it did a fantastic job and very scrupulous research. I think we mentioned this in the last podcast. So I've only read sections of that which were pertinent to me because I was sort of proofreading the interview. But I thought he did a wonderful job and quite a balanced view of a complicated and sometimes not always the nicest man. I tended to see the better side of John, but there was a dark side to him too, which comes out in the book, I think.
I said this last time too. I'd known JNT at conventions in the 80s and then on the first Doctor Who cruise. He seemed like a very nice man. I thought he was a great guy. And, what I read didn't sway me from thinking that, but it did give me a fuller picture of who he was.
Yeah, if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, in the wrong kind of power relationship to John, then things could get less than fun.
When you mentioned on your first episode, we have two different stories of the same man. They're not false. Both of them are true. They're just two different angles of that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
From what you see in the perspective.
On a professional level, I found John great to work with. But it's worth mentioning that my predecessor, Eric-saward, the script editor who worked on Doctor Who just before I arrived, he has a very different story to tell. And I like Eric a great deal. So again, even on a professional level, there's two different versions. Yeah. I think we discussed it at Orlando. The thing with John was, I think he began as a producer on Doctor Who as a control freak, wanting to, be completely interfere with the scripts and be completely in charge of them and have things his own way. But by the time I got there, he was much more, for whatever reason, he had mellowed out, he was laid back, and he gave me enormous creative freedom, almost unheard of. I think in this day and age, you'd be extraordinary to have that level of freedom. I don't think that Steve Moffat has that level of freedom in the sense that he can probably attempt to do anything he wants to do, but there's a number of people above him in the hierarchy, the powers that be, who can say yes or no. When I was working with John, as long as John signed off on it, that really was it. Because although theoretically you had to show, the head of department, the head of drama, series, and serials had to approve what you do. I've often gone on about how despised Doctor Who and ignored it was in those days.
Right.
And I've complained about that a great deal. But the good side of that was you could do anything you want. Nobody cared. And because nobody cared, nobody interfered. The only thing where you might get some interference is, for example, in Paradise Towers, when the Rezzies, who are these female cannibals, started wielding great, huge kitchen knives. That was something in the script we deliberately avoided because there was a moral panic at the time about knife crime, as there is again now.
Yeah.
So Doctor Who was regarded as a children's show, and any kind of show, it was considered very dubious to show people being threatened with knives. So that was the sort of thing where Doctor Who did get a lot of unwanted attention because John and the director decided to stick some huge knives in it, which me and the writer, Stephen Wyatt, had deliberately avoided. Yeah. So in that sense, you might get a bit of attention, but as long as you didn't have something like huge knives or, defame the Queen or something like that, people would leave you, if you disemboweled the Queen's corgis, you might have got into trouble.
Yeah, and that could have happened in Silver-nemesis.
In fact, perhaps it should have happened. But as long as, I do love dogs. I love cats, but dogs too. I'd never disembowel a dog. So unless you did stuff really silly stuff like that, you could pretty much get away with anything you wanted because nobody was searching for hidden messages. I mean, decades later, somebody discovered the Happiness Patrol had an anti-Margaret Thatcher subtext.
Oh, yeah, it just happened. If no one knew that when it first came out.
Well, the thing is, some people noticed, but as I say, Doctor Who was virtually an invisible show. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
So suddenly there was this furore about 4 years ago when the press realized that we were promulgating left-wing messages, anti-Tory, anti-Margaret Thatcher, which was all totally true, but nobody cared at the time. And it took about 20 years to notice. So we had tremendous freedom. And my departure point for making this point was that as long as I got John happy with the script, we could do anything we wanted. And also that we were exercised reasonable discretion not to do something so outrageous that would attract the attention of the public who were really looking at us at all.
Now, you just said that you feel that Stephen Moffat probably doesn't have as much freedom.
That's because of the nature of television has changed. I would say that Stephen is the nearest thing you've got to a showrunner.
Yeah, he's a showrunner, and in my opinion, he needs a script editor. It's just some of the things he puts out there are like, after, maybe you shouldn't have gone that far. He's like Stephen King, who has no one editing his books. It seems that he has an idea, and it's out.
Well, the thing is, there are script editors, but that's part of what I was saying about how the system has changed in television, is that script editors these days are fairly powerless individuals who their job is basically to kind of proofread the script,
right,
which has been creatively agreed with somebody else. In my day, script editors definitely were the ones who creatively shaped the script in collaboration with the writers. As long as your producer was happy with what you're doing, you could do whatever you wanted. So that was great. And if Steve, I do hear these people saying this stuff about Stephen, but whoever is the incumbent is going to get some flack. But I do think it's always very useful to have somebody else to bounce ideas off, and I'm not sure that Steve does. I mean, there's more.
That's what I was. Yeah, that's where I was.
They work together on Sherlock, but I think it would probably be tremendously helpful if he had an equal that he could run things past. Yeah. On Who, because the only criticism I have of Who is with the last Christmas story I saw, it was so bound up with the mythos of the show. It was so, and like the guy who's the handyman who comes and does shelves and stuff around my house, he'd seen it. He said, I couldn't make head nor tail of it. Right. So I do think sometimes the show becomes focused towards the fans and people who are deeply aware of current continuity and know a lot about the Doctor Who myth and canon. And I would like to think that Doctor Who should function in such a way that anybody could watch any episode, drop in at any time, and just be able to enjoy it as a one-off episode. So that's the danger of when you start threading serial material through and making your arcs important, is that suddenly they're self-contained stories.
Isn't continuity something that JNT has been, people say JNT did too much with continuity, did too much for the fans.
Oh yeah.
There was. I remember that because he had the monster season with all past monsters or villains at least, maybe not monsters. I think that was season 20, the anniversary season when he had the Black Guardian. He had just everyone was back.
Well, it's very strange, Mark, because in some ways John went out of his way to indulge the fans, but in other ways he completely alienated them.
He did, didn't he?
Yeah, when I became the script editor, I used to go down the corridor to John's office and I'd see him sitting there with his head in his hands in despair because he was reading this fanzine called Doctor Who Bulletin.
WB, yep.
It called itself Dreamwatch Bulletin when they got some heat for being an unofficial Doctor Who magazine. And the thing is, they had really got in for John and they were calling for his resignation.
Oh, yeah.
But I sort of see both sides of that argument because some of the stuff that John did, he did make some very bad creative decisions. And during Colin Baker's era, and I'm always very hasty to say that I think Colin's a terrific actor and, he should have been a superb doctor, but he had all these handicaps like that dreadful coat. And also there was a lot of problems with the scripts, and I've talked to Eric-saward about this, and the odd thing is, when Eric and I go back over the scripts and we look at things that went wrong,
right.
Eric's logic was always impeccable. He was always doing things for the right reason, but somehow it just didn't turn out the right way. So, for example, when the Sixth Doctor is regenerated, when Colin Baker steps into the role, he begins, doesn't he try and strangle Perry?
Yes, in Twin Dilemma, he definitely strangles Perry.
He wakes up disorientated, and they have this thing that he's kind of this savage, dangerous character because he's disorientated by his regeneration. Okay, well that's an interesting idea, and it's a viable idea. But the trouble is, once they did that, they felt that they were stuck with it. They couldn't just. I'm going to snap my fingers here. They couldn't just change him to a likable character.
But they could have. It was his regeneration crisis. They totally could have done that.
I think they could have, and I think they should have. But their feeling was that they couldn't just, having started him out in one direction, they couldn't instantly do a U-turn. So they continued with him as a slightly unlikable character for a while.
I thought part of that was that Twin Dilemma was at the end of season 21, and then the writers of the next season, all they had was to base their character of Colin Baker's Doctor was Twin Dilemma.
You have to remember that the writers are being briefed by the script editor.
True.
And so it's, they could have gone in a different direction, but Eric's thinking, which is perfectly valid, was that we started in this direction, let's explore it for a while and not throw on the brakes immediately and gradually change. But you see, that gradual change meant that you had this Doctor who was unsympathetic and quite dark and quite negative.
Wow, where have I seen that before recently?
I would say that Sylvester's Dark Doctor. Oh, sorry, is that what you were alluding to?
No, I was alluding to Peter. I was alluding to Peter. He was kind of unlikable. No, at the beginning he was kind of unlikable, and his character, he's very dark.
At least he had a decent costume, dude.
Yes, he has a decent costume. In my opinion, Peter Capaldi's character at the beginning was totally Colin Baker. If they did it a little better.
That's the thing. You can see how that can be done, and it can be effective if you look at Capaldi.
Yeah.
But if you look at Colin Baker, you could see how that could be done, and it could go wrong, which was a shame because I think Colin was potentially a fantastic Doctor. He just wasn't really given the ammunition. The ammunition they gave him was sort of pointing in the wrong direction. Plus, I know I keep going on about it, but for the third time, that costume was such a disastrous mistake.
Oh, the costume, yeah.
Yeah.
But in Big Finish, he's definitely shown that he's a good Doctor.
Sure.
Great Doctor.
That's because they're audio adventures. You don't have to look at the costume.
Exactly.
Right?
And they've changed the costume. Sometimes he's wearing the blue Necros morning outfit. So he's not wearing the colorful outfit on the audio sometimes.
Exactly. I just think he was never given a fair shake. But what I was getting at was that all of Eric's decisions were intelligent decisions, and you can see why he made them. But the net result just was that you had a very unsympathetic Doctor, and you also had some of the nastiest stories ever, like Vengeance-on-Varos.
Oh, I love Vengeance-on-Varos.
I think it's brilliantly written, and I think it's tremendous science fiction. It's a great dark science fiction thriller, but I also kind of feel it's not Doctor Who, because in Doctor Who it's kind of nasty.
Well, he does set up that trap with the poison bushes which kill some of the people chasing him, and he does knock people into acid baths. So yeah, it's not Doctor Who.
Well, he doesn't actually knock them in, but he doesn't help them out.
You know what, if you watch that scene over and over again, yes, he doesn't technically push him in, but he doesn't.
But he mocks them. He mocks them while sizzling. When I actually spoke to Philip, who wrote that, and who is a great British television writer for whom I have tremendous regard. Yeah, he did a great show called Gangsters. If that's ever on DVD, guys, get that. Okay. So I actually got to interview him, and I got the impression that perhaps John or Colin had put in that ad lib, like what happens in Pretty Lemon is that the bad guys get accidentally knocked into an acid bath, which the Doctor was, I think, scheduled to go into. So instead, the bad guys go into it, and they're sizzling away, and the Doctor says, "Don't mind if I don't join you," or some.
It was a James Bond moment. It was a James Bond quip.
James Bond. It was. And so I felt it was very uncharacteristic. I spoke to Philip Martin about it, and he said, no, I scripted that. I wanted that in there. I felt that although the Doctor couldn't have saved those people at that point, I don't think he should have mocked them. You know, it's funny. I think it's not entirely impossible that perhaps Tom Baker might have got away with that if it had been done in a certain way. But when you add that kind of really nasty thing to some of the negative aspects, I think you begin to end up with a package that is, people could really look at it and say, well, this, we don't like the way Doctor Who's going, which I think was what happened with Michael Grade and other people. And when you sort of put all those things together, all that negativity and darkness and nastiness together, you could begin to see why Doctor Who began to get the bad rap it did towards the end. Well, the thing about Vengeance-on-Varos is it's got so many good things going for it. A Philip Martin script, and it's a very hard-hitting script with some deep, dark social satire, with those passive viewers watching these horrible things going on, and it's tremendously well-directed. And it's got really good production values. It's a good, strong, powerful science fiction story in the tradition of great British TV SF like Nigel Neal. If anybody knows about Nigel Neal, he did things like the Year of the Sex Olympics, which again was about passive viewers. And in fact, it predicted reality television in a way that Vengeance-on-Varos does too. This voyeuristic thing of watching nasty spectacles. But I don't think that it's Doctor Who. I think it's a great script. I think it's good, powerful science fiction drama, really well made, but I don't think it's Doctor Who. And the reason I don't is that there's a fundamental nastiness to it, and that the Doctor seems to partake of that nastiness. He doesn't seem exempt from it. He doesn't seem sufficiently opposed to it. He doesn't seem to be the antithesis of that. And I think the Doctor has to have compassion and honesty. I mean, without being a goody-goody, he's got to embody all kinds of virtues. And what has happened in Vengeance-on-Varos is that it's become morally adrift, I think. And the Doctor is part of that moral drift. Yeah. And that's whether or not people agree with that assessment, they're quite at liberty to disagree with it. What I don't think that anybody can deny is that sort of thing began to attract really deeply negative criticism of Doctor Who and began to be one of the nails that were hammered into the coffin of Doctor Who, because people ended up the senior execs of the BBC began to look for excuses to cancel Doctor Who. And I don't think it would have happened if they'd taken a different approach. And I wouldn't be without Vengeance-on-Varos, but I can see why that one would have kind of paved the way for the situation that ended up with the show going on hiatus and John being trying to move out of his position as producer. There was kind of a perfect storm of negative attributes which took place during Colin Baker's tenure, which is a shame because I love Colin.
Yeah, Colin's a great guy. And just to let people know, Colin Baker is actually coming down to Miami in January. He'll be at Magic City Comic-Con on the weekend of the 16th to the 18th. So listeners, if you want to meet Colin Baker and you're in South Florida, come out to Magic City Comic-Con.
Don't miss the opportunity. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Let me bring this into the conversation, Andrew. Just a food for thought, because when we were talking about Colin Baker and him progressively being this mean-spirited Doctor in the scene that you had mentioned from Vengeance-on-Varos, I turn back the clock even further and think about Tom Baker's era, where the question becomes, is he a good man, actually, ironically, with the new season? The storyline of the end of The Key to Time, where he's sitting there with Romana and he's staring at the Key of Time and goes, if I turn, and then that scene where he goes a little bit insane and,
over the top insane.
Yeah, because I can do anything. And then the eyes flutter and all that. Where we get to see the first instance of what happens if the Doctor became bad. The next time I see it, and unfortunately it never came to its fruition, but Shada, where at the end of the story, the character of the Professor, he was originally evil, he wanted to be good. And he makes that same suggestion to Romana.
The great lost Douglas Adams story.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, I think that, in a sense, the Tom Baker Doctor could get away with stuff like that because you built up this huge kind of backlog of goodwill and you'd seen him do all these other things.
Right.
Whereas with Colin, we didn't have that richness of reference. This was kind of all we had. And I think if you'd had 3 or 4 seasons in which Colin had shown his chops and the audience had grown to love him, then you could have explored some darker areas. But if you go straight to that, that's all we've really got in our heads about the guy. That's my feeling about it.
Well,
there's some truth. And then he actually, the one scene that got to me, that strangling scene at the very end, how does Perry fend him off? She takes her mirror and reflects him, and he sees his own reflection. And the last couple of times we've seen that, it's usually the reflection of evil. So that kind of gave me a sense, could the Doctor have some evil in him? Which is later explored in the Valeyard and later on in Amy's Choice.
Yeah.
So, maybe the direction wasn't the best way to do it, but I think the chance to say, hey, is he a good man or a bad man, which is now later explored in Capaldi's season.
It's a legitimate notion, and it's a good notion, but it's not something you can do if you lost the audience's sympathy already, which you kind of had.
Right.
If you start probing that in that area, when you're already on thin ice, you're in bad trouble.
Right, which was the mistake of probably the first episodes of Capaldi's season, which made him look mean and just not the Doctor-ish. We didn't see that until the end of the season. I think
with Capaldi, they certainly got away with it, but with Colin Baker, there was a lot of other negating factors that going on. It was just a strange time on the show. But as I say, talking to Eric, he made what at the time were always all the right decisions, and yet it just added up to kind of the wrong thing. I think he felt that they got painted into a corner somewhat, but I've got a great deal of respect for Eric and for Colin, so I just think it was a shame what happened in those days. But I'm tremendously grateful that when I came on, it was a whole new slate, and John he was like a different character. It was like the pod people had replaced him or something. He was just a different. He was a different John Nathan Turner compared to what Eric had to deal with.
Well, Andrew, I want to thank you for spending some time with us again here on Mark Who 42's Universe.
Tremendous pleasure, guys. Thank you for fitting me in again.
And always come back to Orlando. Always. You're welcome here.
We'll talk to we'll try to talk to Jared for you. Not that he'll listen to me.
Or me.
Say hi to him and say I think it's Kaiba is his dog. Yeah. Say give him both my best. Kiba, baby. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Christian, great to talk to you again, and I hope to be down in Florida soon, guys.
Yeah, we'd love to see you again.
Be sweet. And if I don't speak to you before, then have a wonderful Christmas, folks. That goes for all your listeners out there. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew Cartmel, ladies and gentlemen. And now it's Christmas time. Christmas is coming up in a couple of weeks, and we thought we'd make this end of the episode a little about what you could get your loved one for Christmas, Doctor Who style. And to take us on a journey is Ed.
I did go to the malls on Black Friday. Trish and I were going through. So, I've had a chance to look at some of the stuff that Whovians can buy. And let's see. At Hot Topic, they did have 2 Doctor-related coats. They had Eleven's jacket he first wore when Matt Smith started. And yeah, they're retailing that for $49.50. And then they had a darker coat, which they said was Capaldi's coat, but to me it looked more like the long coat that Matt Smith wore towards the end of his tenure. That was retailing for $79.50.
Right.
Amazon is offering a slipcase edition of the 12 Doctors, 12 Stories.
Mm-hmm.
And that is retailing on site for $18.62. If you're looking for stocking stuffers,
right,
there are some Doctor Who microfigures. For those of you who don't know, there are little minifigures. They're about like a couple of inches, usually very cartoony in design.
Right.
And what they do is they put them in these bags, these plastic bags. You can't see what you get, so you just have to buy the bag and get surprised when you open it. Those were at Hot Topic. I saw them for $5.50 a piece. But it's kind of cool. You grab one and put it in the stocking, and maybe you'll get lucky and you'll get the 12th Doctor. Worst case, you get a couple of Cybermen. Those are just some ideas.
What was that one thing that they had for, I don't know if it was a Guth, but grow your own 10th Doctor thing? Does anybody remember that?
Grow your own 10th Doctor.
Yeah, it was like, those little things that like the pills, and then you put them in water and they're supposed to expand out?
Yeah, I think it's his hand, isn't it?
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
I think, I think so.
I think it's a little container that looks like the container that he kept his severed hand in.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's his hand that it makes. So you get your own little
doctor.
But another good website to get Doctor Who stuff is ThinkGeek.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they have a bunch of cyber deals this week with a lot of Doctor Who stuff. You can get like 2 Doctor Who ornaments. It's a set. It's a Dalek and a TARDIS. It's only $11.99 for both. And then they have actually Doctor Who cookie cutters, which I actually have. And it's a Cyberman head, a Dalek, TARDIS, K9, and a sonic screwdriver. And those are only $9.99 right now.
I was at Barnes & Noble yesterday, and they have a bunch of Doctor Who merchandise out. DVDs, T-shirts, Doctor Who Yahtzee. They even have the new 3 3/4-inch action figures. At the Barnes & Noble I was at, they at least had 10th Doctor and Amy Pond. But I know there's more out there. I think, Trish, weren't we at a Toys R Us a couple of months ago, and we saw Clara?
Yes.
Like Clara and some Daleks? So
yeah, those action figures, some of them look terrible, though.
Although, and what did they retail for? I think they were retailing for 10, weren't they?
10, yeah, $9.99.
Yeah, $9.99. I mean, it's which is about average for 3 3/4 action figures nowadays.
Hey guys, you forgot. You can also go to Mark Who 42 Books, my bookseller shop on Amazon. Just go to amazon.com/shops/Mark Who 42, and we've got tons of rare Doctor Who books. at an affordable price. You can get those for Christmas, too.
But yeah, there's lots of Doctor Who stuff available now. It's great, because just even 2 years ago, you couldn't find anything. Here now, you can go into Walgreens and buy a sonic screwdriver. Yeah. Be surprised.
Trish, that's funny that you mentioned that, because last Black Friday, for the first time when I was going out scouring about at Walmart and Target, I never thought I would see DVDs of Doctor Who, and there they are on the shelf. Of course, they're Eccleston series, so we're catching people up in the States right now who have just never heard of it and just saw it off the shelf. I thought that was kind of cool, and those things are usually between $10 and $20 depending on what series that you get out there. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I've actually seen on shelves, not Eccleston, but one of the Tennant seasons divided up into DVDs of like 3 episodes apiece.
Oh, my local library. I mean, if you just don't have the means to get it, and you want to see Doctor Who, my local library has all the series practically out there.
Yeah, the library has Doctor Who. I saw the visual dictionary in the library I work at. Check stuff out. They have the DVDs. They had Time of the Doctor in the DVD section.
And the other one, which I thought was funny, I was with friends at Dave & Buster's. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but people who may not be familiar with it are outside the country. Dave & Buster's is a big video arcade / restaurant type deal. It's more geared for the adults, but what you have to do is you have to play certain games and get these little tickets that come out of the machine. The better you play at the game, the more tickets you get. And I'm not usually one to take my tickets and go over there. I usually just get them, put them on my card, and think nothing of it. And some of them are usually good gifts like PlayStations or Xboxes, but you really have to rank them up. But one of the items I thought I would never see at the Dave & Buster's was the Doctor Who Trivia Pursuit game. And, of course, I spent all my tickets and grabbed that off the shelf. I would have bought the thing, but you can't even buy it. Nice. You have to actually earn the tickets. I'm like, damn, I spent a small fortune, but really had a good time, and I got myself a nice trivia game on the way out the door.
Hey. You can get that trivia game at Hot Topic.
No, but it's not as fun if I just buy it off the shelf. I need to – don't you understand? I need to put that coin in, and I got to pull that lever, and God, I got to get it in between the 2 lines. And I got it twice.
Oh, Christian, do you need intervention?
Yes, I do, actually.
But suffice to say, there's plenty of Doctor Who merchandise out there, and you can get them for Christmas. You can check them out at the library. You just have a great time with it.
Well, and I'm sure that we have a friend of the program, Debbie Red. I'm sure she has some.
Debbie Red sells, yeah. I sell stuff. I was selling Dalek Christmas ornaments at FIU Comic-Con. Sold a few.
I'm just glad that there's so much available now. Yeah, and I just hope that this continues, and I hope that it doesn't go the other way, where sometimes it gets too overexposed.
Right, and to be honest, it might be getting too overexposed.
Or at least, well, there's the other thing. I mean, there's either it gets overexposed, or there gets to a point where whoever does the U.S. distribution just says, oh, well, it's not as cool now, and they start to throttle back, and we start to get less and less. I mean, that's happened with Hasbro and G.I. Joe, where it feels like they're not putting as much into the brand now. Like, there's barely anything on shelves. And even places like Walmart and Target aren't really carrying the toys. So it could also go that way, but hopefully not.
I think with any marketing item with a series that has longevity like Doctor Who, like all the science fiction TV shows that have come out, and there's another one that's coming out that's going to celebrate its 50th anniversary, but hasn't been on TV for quite some time. What kind of merchandise is that? But they had 2 very good, successful movies. In fact, one of the actors from Doctor Who appeared in the sequel. So I think for most part, a lot of G.I. Joe, like Transformers, they have that lull time, those wilderness years, but then they come back, and when they reinvent it for a whole new audience, like they've done with Doctor Who, it's just nice to see it back. Yeah, I used to have one sci-fi store that I had to go to for my 10 items of Doctor Who that started off at $100 or more. And it's like, God, I got to save up for the Dalek Pink, because that's the cheapest damn thing on the shelf. And now I go to practically my Walmart and I can get a TARDIS, those little wind-up TARDISes for $10. So, yeah, the merchandise has improved over time now that the reboot has happened, and I'm better for it, because now I just go on Friends and say, hey, Christmas. Doctor Who, that's it. My ultimate Christmas present would be if they opened up an attraction at Disney or Universal. And I think Universal should finally have a Doctor Who attraction. I'm telling you right now, Universal, I'm going to start my little campaign.
Oh, yes, that would be awesome.
Before we go, we used to have a segment on our show called Christian's Corner where you would ask us questions and we would answer them for you. And I think we're going to try something a little different. We're going to ask you a question, and Christian of Christian's Corner will give it. Christian?
Well, it's not necessarily a question per se. Maybe. What I'm going to do is...
It's a question.
Yeah, it's a question. I'm going to be putting this up on the site before the episode premieres. But what I want to ask everybody is my take on who Santa Claus is. Maybe it may be nothing, but after doing a little research, knowing about this particular person in the series, I still think that Santa Claus is the meddling monk. So I'll be putting that meme out by the time this episode premieres. That question will be out there, and it will be.
Yeah, but the question is, do you think it's just Santa, or do you think it could be somebody else like the meddling monk?
My question will be: what do you think?
What do you think?
Being this early, still 20 some odd days when we're recording this, it'll be 20 some odd days before the episode premieres. What do you think? What's your take on it? Give us all your opinions, your advice, your questions. Tell me I stink, or maybe I have something that's going on there.
Thank you, Christian, for that Christian's Corner question. Time Middler or Santa? We are out of time for this week's show. I hope you enjoyed Mark Who 42's Universe here on Krypton Radio. Do we have any final words from the gang?
Behave or I'll come and get you. I've got coal for everybody.
Oh, not the Krampus. Oh, no, not again. Trish, anything to say to anybody?
It could be the elf on the shelf.
It could be the elf on the shelf, yes.
No, kill it. Kill it with fire. Please.
kill the fire.
Those are my last words.
Hey, gang, don't forget to visit the Traveling TARDIS up until, visit every day as always, but especially this particular time up until the 25th of December, where we're doing the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS 25 Days of Christmas. We're going to have music videos, movies, some specials from the actual TV show, some clips from Doctor Who from previous Christmases, and get to see the Traveling TARDISes in places for Christmas time that you'll probably have never seen the TARDIS before. We just did our SeaWorld location. We're now posting... by the time this comes out, we probably already posted our Disney's Grand Floridian, and we're going to be in St. Augustine by the time this premieres. So Traveling TARDIS is doing what he does. He travels all over the place.
Traveling TARDIS travels through Florida. Yeah.
That's basically about it.
I don't know. It goes other places, too. Don't forget to check out our Facebook page while you're at it, Mark Who 42's WHOniverse. Tweet us at Mark Who 42. Listen to old episodes, other episodes that we've done earlier in our lifetime. Or is it lifetimes? I'm not sure. Our Gallifreyan's kind of iffy. Go to markwho42. What was that?
I said, what's this our Gallifreyan? My Gallifreyan's fine. I don't know about you.
I haven't used my Gallifreyan in quite a while. I've been a renegade for a long time. Go to markwho42.net and join the WHOniverse army. Maybe you'll be a Gallifreyan. You could try us at iTunes, FloridaGeekScene.com, Geekcast Radio Network. Before we go, I am going to spill the beans. We have a show for you next week that you are going to love. It's got some Cuban flavor to it. It's hot. It's spicy. It's Arlene Tur from Torchwood Miracle Day. So you'll listen to that next week, but don't forget to listen to us all the time here on Mark Who 42's WHOniverse. Bye, everyone. Mark Who 42's WHOniverse has been written and presented by Mark Baumgarten, Patricia-Helm, Eduardo-m-Freyre, and Christian-basel. This show was edited, produced, and directed by Mark Baumgarten. You can be contacted by email at mark@markwho42.net. The subject line, ? If you have worked on Doctor Who or are working on a project relating to Doctor Who and want to be on our radio show, please email our media relations director, Christian-basel, at markwho42media@yahoo.com. Doctor Who and its properties are owned by the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. This show is owned and copyrighted by Mark Baumgarten, 2014. You're listening to Krypton Radio.